So, Raymond, La Llorona is an iconic figure in Latino folklore, but for those who are not familiar, can you tell us a little bit about it and why we should be frightened of her?
Well, you should be frightened of La Llorona because she's not a fairy tale. She's not a myth. La Llorona is a dark entity that actually exists. She was a human being who lived and lost her life by her own hand after she murdered her children in a fit of rage. And when she realized what she did, her grief was so intense that she took her own life. And then she was destined to walk the earth for all eternity in search of souls of children to replace those that she lost, which it's a vicious cycle because she'll never be able to fill that void. And so children are always at risk for being victimized by La Llorona. And in Latin culture, this is handed down from generation to generation, and she's been around for hundreds of years. And there's been sightings of her, people have heard her, and these are, again, these are things that cannot be explained.
And Michael, this is your first feature film. You have an incredible cast, incredible filmmakers. How has this ride been for you? Can you explain a little bit how this journey has been?
This has been just a total joy. It's been an incredible opportunity, incredible honor. I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up hearing the La Llorona story, and it was just kind of, one of many ghost stories that got passed around. And it was one of those that, if you ask me now, I couldn't name a single ghost story that I've heard except for La Llorona. And I think that there's just something, so powerful and dark and tragic about the story. And I think that's the reason that it's had such long legs and how it survives to this day. I was blessed with an incredible crew and an incredible cast. We had a great time making this movie, and everyone was really supportive. This was, it had a tight schedule, a tight budget, but everyone rose to the challenge, and I'm very proud of the film that we've made.
And Raymond, can you explain how your character fits into this interpretation of the story?
Well, my character is the last resort for Linda Cardellini's character and her family who are being victimized by La Llorona. They're being attached by this dark entity. And I'm the only person who understands how and what she is. And I'm the only one who understands how to deal with her because I have a history. He's an ex-priest. And so he's faith-based, and then he's a shaman. He's a curandero, a mystic, and he practices the healing arts. So he uses spirituality and he uses faith in order to combat this dark entity. Which you got to remember, the only way that you can combat darkness is with light. So he has the answers, and he figures it out as he goes along. That was a great answer, right?
You killed it, man.
Killed it,
He's
man.
Killing it.
And Michael, what can you tell us about the story we're going to see in the film and how La Llorona comes into it?
We give a brief glimpse into the birth of La Llorona, her origins, and then we fast forward into the 1970s, and we're following this woman Anna, who's a social worker, and she starts to investigate this case, and it seems like it's a case of child abuse, and she ends up taking these children away from their mother, and what she realizes is it's something far darker and far more ruthless. And what she realizes is she's uncovered La Llorona, and La Llorona comes in and descends upon her family and targets her and her children.
And Michael, what kind of research or preparation did you do embarking on this project?
From the very beginning, research was incredibly important. The goal was to make the definitive La Llorona story, the ultimate La Llorona story. And as we, started to dig into it, what we realized is there is not one true La Llorona story. There's been so many variations through the years. Every person who tells it puts their own unique spin onto it. So that actually became a big challenge. It was, which is, of all these great different variations, which is the one we're going to choose to tell. I think we ended up, just deciding on, the classic version of, the woman the taker of children, this kind of the ultimate boogeyman who's coming after, kids. Yeah.
And Raymond, I understand you came to set armed with your own spiritual protections. Did anything spooky happen while on set?
Yes, we had several I would classify it as paranormal experiences while we were shooting in the middle. That cannot be explained. We were doing a scene, it's a very intense scene where I'm battling La Llorona, and I have my hand up to God, and I'm wearing a bracelet, and there are these dark stones that protect you against negative energy. And I had the Bible in the other hand, and I'm reciting a prayer, and I'm using the spirituality to combat her. And in the middle of the scene, the bracelet just exploded off my hand, and the beads went everywhere. And Chaves cut, and he was like, "What the hell happened?" And I said, I think my bracelet came apart. So I'm thinking it just fell apart. I pick up the individual stones, and 3 of them were split perfectly in half, as if you cut them with a knife. Now, I took one of these outside because I was flabbergasted. Like I couldn't believe how could it break. I threw one on the cement, tried to break it, it couldn't damage it. I stomped on it, I couldn't break it. So you can't explain that. And I kept them, I have them.
It's great. What do you hope audiences experience when they come to see The Curse of La Llorona?
I hope that audiences experience a thrill ride, first of all. I hope that they're entertained and that they're educated a little bit about Latin culture, and then this fabulous, wealth of history, of a legend that belongs to us, and that we get to share it with the rest of the world, so they have a deeper understanding about Latin people in general. Because this story, La Llorona, is very important to Latin culture. You got to understand, she's been around forever, for hundreds of years, and it's handed down like a gift from your grandparents, to you as a child, and then as you get older, you hand it down to your children.
That's great. And Michael, you've accomplished a lot of this film's supernatural elements with practical effects. Was it fun staging these scary gags on set with James and your team, and also shaping the new big screen monster with actor Marisol Ramirez?
Yeah, one of the most important things with this is, getting as much in front of the camera as possible. And, I love practical effects. I love practical makeup. I think that, effects makeup, as a kid, I thought I actually wanted to get into effects makeup. I loved like monster blood and monster makeup and all those things. And so it was an incredible joy of, designing this monster and, designing the look of La Llorona. We went through a lot of iterations in, designing her look. And, some, they were all very cool. Some were, a little bit too zombie, or some were a little bit too, a little bit too human, and we landed on a look that I feel like is the classic La Llorona look. I think that's very tricky when you're trying to create an iconic monster. It seems like it would be easy. It seems like there would be a roadmap, but with this, that you want something that is signature, that's your own, but you also need to balance the expectations of what people are expecting to see with a La Llorona monster.